Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. We're so glad you guys are here today. You are in for a workshop about job search essentials. So if you are looking for a new job or thinking about looking for a new job, then you're in the right place. And the way I'd love to get started today, first of all, is we need you to check in. So if you haven't used the QR code to check in, please do that. You can use your phone and scan the QR code, or Wendy's going to drop in a link in the chat. And so you can just click on that link and check in. The check-in process allows us the opportunity to continue getting grants. And so this grant is sponsored by Arizona at Work Pinal County. And they're allowing us to have people check in so that we can get the information on how many people are attending and who is attending. And we can continue this grant. So thank you so much for doing that. Go ahead and check in. And while you're also checking in, what I'd love to know is to get a little bit of information about who's on the call today and make sure we're covering the things you want to cover. So what's your name in the chat? If you haven't opened the chat's on the bottom of your screen for most of you. If you're calling in from a phone, there's usually like 3 dots and it's under that 3 dots. But what is your name? Where are you calling in from? And then I have what industry do you want to work in? So what industry or job? But I also would love to know a job search question that you have, because I would love to be able to capture most of your questions within the content of the workshop today. So in the chat, go ahead and tell us what your name is, where you're calling in from, and the job you're looking for, and then a job search question. Because I want you all to get used to using the chat today, because that's where we're going to talk about where I'm going to have you ask questions and we're going to engage. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat so that I'm answering your questions. And so you may see me looking off to the side sometimes. That's because my chat is on the other screen. So my name is Jessica Pierce. I'm the founder and CEO of Career Connectors. We are a nonprofit organization that helps people that are in career transition. We launched 15 years ago in the middle of the Great Recession. And since then, I have just been a workforce advocate, trying to help people land jobs and jobs that are a great fit for who they are and at fantastic companies. And so I've been doing that for the last 15 years. We've served over 75,000 people. I also do keynote talks all over around workforce information, job search information. And so I get to do a couple of these workshops every month, and along with the events that we do with Career Connectors. I have 2 teenage girls and an adult son that lives in Charleston, and I'm really excited because on Saturday, I head out to Washington, D.C., and I'm going to speak at a workforce conference. And then right when I'm done with that, Tuesday, I head over to Charleston to get to see my boy. So we're in a different season of life, whereas I remember the days where I had littles running around and life was really, really crazy. My husband and I are kind of on this next half where our youngest is 16, so she's driving. We have an 18-year-old that's graduating high school in 2 months, and then our son is out on the East Coast. So that is the phase of life I'm in, and I know all of you, everybody's in a different phase of life, but defining your phase of life is part of actually the job search process, and understanding what you want to do and your values, what's most important, so that you can allocate your time and resources. So if you have not yet, I have a couple people that have dropped into the chat. Again, let us know where you're calling in from and your job title that you're searching for, and then also a job search question. What question do you have? Maybe something about resumes or interviews or targeting or defining your career search or networking. Anything you have, go ahead and drop that in there. So we're going to get started today, and this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to do a little bit on understanding the market so you can understand how to target market. Then the main part of our content is really going to be around the hiring process, helping you understand how hiring managers look at hiring. And so, of course, they all do it different, but there are some main key concepts that each of them use and how they hire. And so I want you all thinking like a hiring manager. And so the other thing, if you have been a hiring manager before, if you've hired people, Could you drop a 1 in the chat so I understand who has hired people before and kind of knows what that looks like? And then that's how I want you to think as we go through that part. And then about the last hour of the session, we're going to go through some job search tools. So looking at, how do I define my career and what I'm searching for? Some resume stuff, networking, and a little bit on social media and technology. That's what we're doing today, you guys. And so I'm going to throw a lot of information at you right here at the beginning. And then we're going to dive in where you'll have some activities. And so I encourage you to get out a piece of paper and pen. And actually, yes, a piece of paper and pen, because when you write stuff down, we remember and retain about 70 to 80% is what the data tells us. And so rather than just typing it out or listening. So if you write things out, you tend to retain it more. So this presentation will be available to you after the event today. So that was part of making sure that you check in. When you check in, you'll get an email with all the resources and the information and a link back to this webinar. And that will come later today after the event. So I also want to spend a moment thanking Arizona at Work, Pinal County, who is the sponsor of this event. Sometimes we have people from Pinal County jump on the call. So if you are here from Pinal County, please let us know so I can do a shout out so people know you're here. And then I will also make sure you all have resources for how to follow up if you have additional questions or content questions about your job search. All right, so unemployment. We're around a 3 point. Okay, first of all, let me disclaim this. I'm in Arizona, and Arizona at Work Pinal County is a sponsor of this event. So I'm going to talk a few minutes about Arizona specifically, and then we'll move to national. And so just a portion of the call is going to be very specific to Arizona, and then we'll get into kind of what it looks like on a national basis. But for Arizona, our numbers are around 3.5, 3.7% for unemployment. And that has kind of been where it's been for the last 6 months. And so we are seeing a little uptick in unemployment claims. So the numbers are going up a little bit. And we're also seeing an increase in some layoffs and displaced workers. But what I also want to say is that I'm getting a lot of people right now reaching out to me, freaking out because layoffs are increasing. Here's the deal, you guys. They're up by like a little tiny bit, not a ton. And so it's the layoff numbers are just getting really loud on media because it's in the government. And so it's at the federal level. And so I encourage you to really, when you start to get, if you start getting worked up about that, take a moment, breathe, and understand the right opportunity is out there for you. And so just because we're hearing about more layoffs doesn't mean the layoffs weren't happening before. It's just a different type in the media has gotten a hold of it. So know that that is true. Remember, always go back to the actual data when we get a little nervous. But also, I want to say that whether the unemployment number is at 2% or 25%, if you're laid off, it feels like 100%. And so it can be very difficult this moment of time that you're in. And a lot of times it can feel lonely and like you don't know what to do. And so that's why our organization is here to help. And that's why organizations like Arizona at Work are here to help. If you are outside of Arizona, there are other resources available as well. And so Arizona at Work is supporting, Pinal County is supporting this workshop and these workshops at no cost to you. And also, your state probably has some additional resources. They may look different. They may not be virtual, that you might have to go into a location, but also explain to you where you can get that information. So in Arizona, our job growth continues. We're getting a lot of new companies coming in. The estimation is about 500,000 new jobs by 2032. And that's, again, our population has not stopped growing. We're a desirable place to live for many people. And so people will continue to move in. On the right-hand side of the screen are the industries that are growing. And you'll see education and health services, they do bucket those together. But we will, I mean, healthcare is just going to increase and increase and increase. And the thing I want to tell you about that, both on the education side, but specifically healthcare, is almost every industry supports healthcare in some capacity. So regardless of what you do, it's likely it can be done within the healthcare sector as well. And so I want you to be thinking about that. Just because maybe you have been in a specific type of job for a long time, that doesn't mean you have to stay with that particular job. You can even do that type of position within a completely different industry. So these are the ones that are growing. And business and professional services, that is anything that supports the industry. So it can be finance, and it can be IT, it can be insurance tends to fall here. So things that are accounting, finance, the kind of things that support a business to run. Of course, manufacturing in Arizona is going to continue to rise, and so then you'll see the other ones below. Okay, so that's Arizona, and then some of the workforce trends. Now, on a national basis, let me just go back to this. We're about 4.1%. I think the number is actually 4.2% from last month. So those reports come out a little delayed, but we are running around the 4.3% on a national basis. And again, there's not a major spike. The only time I remember a major spike was back in the Great Recession in 2009 and 10, and then during COVID. Those were the two times that there were major spikes in unemployment. You actually are sitting in a good place right now with being able to, with looking for a job, because there are jobs out there. All right, some of the trends we see happening. This is just some information for you as you search and as you're in the marketplace. I want you to understand this stuff. One, Gen Z is here and they're not going away. So 27% of the workforce by the end of the year is going to be Gen Z. So basically, look around. If you're not a Gen Z, if you were not born from 1997 to 2013, and you're not a Gen Z, when you're working, I want you to look around, and about 1 in 4 of the people that you're going to be working with are Gen Z. So the language is a little bit different. We have to adapt a little bit differently. Gen Z has to adapt to the workforce as well. But don't get frustrated. We need to embrace Gen Z and say, welcome to the workforce. It's happening. We are seeing a huge growth in artificial intelligence and AI. So if you have not jumped into the AI world, I encourage you to get on board. It's going to be really, really important. And it is already really, really important in how people are utilizing AI within the business. I was speaking at a conference. I was in a meeting with executives in the Phoenix area, and we had about 30 people in the room. I was there as the nonprofit workforce representative along with the city of Phoenix, and the rest were executives. 3 of them were from the main higher education schools out here, and then the rest were executives within the Phoenix metro area. Every single one of them said how AI has completely changed the way they do business. And so we want to make sure that you are ready, and you can just do that by jumping on a tool like ChatGPT. So I want you to just write that down and make sure that you know you need to at least understand it. It's as easy as jumping on Google and asking a question into Google. Same concept. It's not difficult. Don't be scared of it. It does take some getting used to. The hybrid and remote workforce, of course, will continue. We are seeing a trend to hybrid rather than fully remote. Now, fully remote's not going away. Don't worry for those of you that are fully remote, but more companies are wanting their people to come in at least occasionally. So that's what we call the hybrid workforce. And then the other trend that we're seeing is there's a big focus on mental health. So companies are offering better and more mental health benefits. We're seeing flexible schedules. We're seeing companies be more flexible because of the mental health focus that is happening. So that's also a good thing. All right, so those are some of the trends. I just want you to be aware of what the workforce looks like right now. Let's talk the hiring process. So this is the meat of the presentation today. So again, if you did not get your paper and pencil or pen out, I encourage you to do that because we're going to write some things down today. When a company goes to hire, they are looking at 3 major components of you as a candidate. They're looking at competence. Can you do the job? They're looking at character traits. Are you a match for our company? And they're looking at chemistry. Do we like you and can we work with you? Those 3 things make up that culture match. Those 3 areas are the ones that a company and a hiring manager will look to decide if you're going to be a good fit for the company. So we'll talk about the recruitment process, what that looks like real quickly, and then we're going to dive into each of these areas that will get you to the culture match. First of all, the recruitment process. Any of you ever feel like you are just submitting online and you're never hearing back? Kind of feels like the hole of death. It's going, my resume's going in and nothing is coming back. If that's you, if you ever feel that, you are not alone. A lot of people feel that. And they're like, I never heard back from this hiring manager. Or maybe you even got to do an interview and you didn't hear back. That's a bummer and it stinks. And it's also a reality of what we're dealing with. So I'm not here to say that it's right or that it's wrong. I'm just saying it happens. So you can't absorb that and you can't own that. That's not your issue if you never hear back. We do want you following up, but I want you to understand the recruitment life cycle can include all of these things on this chart and much more. So if you've been part of the hiring process before, you have seen how much work it takes to get a job description, post it in various areas, pull all of the recruiting applications into one place, sort through them, read through them, reach out to candidates, then wait to hear back, and then schedule an interview, and then qualify the candidate, and then move them on to the hiring manager, get in contact with the hiring manager's calendar, get that on their calendar, then follow up with the hiring manager, find out, did they like the person? Was it a good fit? Do I move them along? Then you talk to HR and get the offer letter together, and then the candidate, you're negotiating with that person on offer letter, and then you get to the very end, and sometimes the candidate's like, oh, I found another job. Sometimes the company's like, oh, we found this in the background, it's not going to be a good fit. Like, you could go through this whole thing and it's just so frustrating for everyone. It takes a long time. Someday, somehow, there'll be a company that go, we have the magic and we figured it out how to make a hire like this. Right now, every company does it different and it seems to be quite a long process. And even with AI coming out and AI trying to utilize different tools, it's difficult. And so only want you to understand that because there are a lot of steps. And so don't get frustrated with the company or the hiring managers because you're not hearing back every 2 days. I do understand it's super frustrating when you don't hear back at all. So I do encourage you to continue following up, but that's just an example of what the recruitment life cycle could look like. Now, the first thing a company looks at when they're qualifying, when they're thinking, can this person do this job? I have this really good job. Can this person do this job? They look at your competence. And mostly the competence is going to come from your resume. It's going to come from your resume. That's where they're going to be able to see it. Do you have the skills, experience, and the right training and education? So let's take a look at the job description. When you are looking at a job description to apply for a job, it is essential that when you're reading through a job description, you are a match for at least 80% of the job description. Doesn't have to be 100%. Let's say you're a great fit and you don't have a 4-year degree, but they say they want a 4-year degree. If you're 80%, go for it. That's kind of the number I play with, right? So if you're looking at a job description, you're like, I really like this company, I like what they're about, and I fit about 80% of the job description, then apply for that job. It is worth your time. If it's more like 60% or 50%, I would not spend the time to apply for the job. A company looks at your resume to see if it's a match for the job, and you can the only way you really know if you're a match for the job is on the job description. So we'll talk about resumes later, and if you have not attended our resume workshop with Lori Norris or Brenda Mariah, please do that. They will deep dive into resumes and how you can update your resumes for the jobs you're applying for. And yes, you do want to apply at every job you apply for. Yes, you do want to update your resume, tweak your resume, not a full overhaul. Nope. But you want to tweak it for that job. And it's really important that you do that because that's how a company will evaluate your competence to the job. So the things, when we talk about skills, the skills are the technical capabilities. So what technical capabilities do you have? And are they a match? Are they looking for leadership skills? And of course, the job requirements, which we talked about. So technical capabilities can be things like Microsoft Office. Maybe it's a CRM system. It could even be manufacturing processes or graphic design skills, or there's any kind of web or Google search or AI tools. All of those are technical capabilities. So make sure those are integrated into your resume. And if they are on the job description, you definitely want to call them out. So if they have specific technical requirements on the job description, make sure those are embedded into your resume. Even if it's something you feel like, oh, everyone knows that, still include it on your resume because that's how the company will evaluate if you have the competence. So for example, Microsoft Office, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Outlook. Some of you may think, oh, everyone knows that. If it's on the job description, make sure it's on your resume. That's part of the match process. So technical capabilities, absolutely. And then leadership or professional skills. Sometimes you'll see things around communication, around team development, initiative, those kind of things, problem solving. If those are on the job description, you need to integrate them into your resume somehow. And Lori will talk more about this in the workshop, but we're not just talking about a list of words. So we're not just talking about, sometimes people teach resumes and they'll say, have a skills section at the top. We don't necessarily, or I don't necessarily think that's right. And companies that I work with and that our resume writers have worked with know that it is better if your skills are actually integrated into your resume under accomplishment statements, under your experience. And so you kind of tell how you've utilized those skills. And so make sure you're integrating all of that into your resume because you want the job requirements to be on your resume so that they can see what you've already done before. So this is how they are evaluating you. Your experience, you want to put your experience in there. Now, your experience can be obviously working. What are your jobs that you had? They can also be part-time jobs. They can be contract or 1099 jobs. Maybe you have a gig job. Maybe you do something like care.com and you're a nanny like my daughter is, which she loves doing. So what are the jobs that you've had? Doesn't matter if it's full-time, part-time, or 1099 contract jobs. All of those count. Now, you don't have to include every single job on your resume because it might not matter to the company. So if you're working a full-time job and you have 2 gig jobs, maybe you don't need to add those 2 gig jobs onto your resume because you have the full-time job there. But you want to make sure if you're applying for a job that applies to one of those gig jobs or those 1099s, that is on there. Volunteer experience. If you're volunteering for an organization, kudos to you. And it's a great thing to do during your job search. We have amazing, fantastic volunteers for our organization, and we could not do what we do without them. So, for example, I have a volunteer right now who is overseeing, she's just starting, overseeing our full social media calendar. She's coming up with the calendar and some recommended content, and she's putting it out onto the platforms and scheduling it to go out. And she has a degree in digital marketing, but she doesn't have a lot of experience. And so she is utilizing her volunteer experience on her resume. And that is absolutely acceptable to do. And you should be doing that. So if you're going to volunteer for an organization, nonprofits are in dire need of experts in various different industries and different skill sets. So reach out to a nonprofit if you want to and offer to volunteer for them while you're in this time, and it will give you something on your resume that's current. And then of course, any kind of internships, apprenticeships, all of that counts and shows your experience. Now let's talk about education. Another way that they're looking, are you a fit? Do you have the competence? Some companies require degrees, 4-year degrees, but we are seeing a huge trend, huge right now, where 4-year degrees aren't required for many jobs now. There may need to be a certification or experience, or specific training, but we're seeing a reduction in the requirement of 4-year degrees. Now, some companies, you must have a 4-year degree, maybe engineering, if you're a counselor, a doctor, something like that, a nurse, there are certain areas that it's unavoidable. You must have your degree. But the trend is companies are taking away that barrier to employment. And so get a certification if you need to in a new field, if you're looking, or if you've been in a field for a while, but you don't have the certification that you think you need, go get that certification. It often doesn't take very long to do that, or go through some training. Maybe you need to take some AI training. And there are so many online opportunities now. There's a website called Coursera. Coursera has a ton of trainings that are available to you. There's a whole bunch actually of various different online training systems and tools that allow you to just go through some training, and then some of them offer certification as well. So make sure for the jobs you're going after, if there's a certain training you need, you get that training. And then, so here's my question to you with that piece of paper that you have right now. I want you to think about a job that you're interested in. Think about the skills and qualifications that are needed. So that, and experiences and the training. Is there anything you feel like you're missing with that to be a match for the competence side? So I want you to write that down on your piece of paper. Is there anything you are missing that you think you could do to be a better candidate for that job? And then think about, what could I do to become more qualified in this area? Maybe you just need to start posting about it on social media. Maybe you need to write an article. Or maybe you can reach outside of the box a little and get a little uncomfortable and offer to do a speaking engagement. Or are you working on some kind of publication, or could you work on some kind of publication? So really want you thinking through, for the job you are focused on, is there something you're missing? Is there something you need to do to either showcase your qualifications or go get additional qualifications? Think about, do you need to take some training? Do you need to, just take an inventory of all of the training you've gone through and then get that integrated into your resume? Maybe it's just not showing well. There is often funding available for training through the various different workforce agencies across the US. And so if you're in Arizona, ours is called Arizona at Work. And you can get online and go to and see where the offices are and go meet with one of the career guidance services counselors there. And you can see if you would be qualified to get your training funded. And then if you're not in Arizona, here's how I can help you find your organization that can help you. There is a law, it's called the WIOA, Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act. I'm going to put it in the chat, WIOA. And then what I want you to do is jump out to Google and do WIOA and then put your state. I'm going to use WIOA, Ohio, for example. You would go WIOA, Ohio. And what that will do is it will get you to the website, to the location for your state that oversees all of the federal funding for WIOA, Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act. That is, again, a federal law that money every year comes down and waterfalls down. Each state gets so much of that money. And then from each state has a board or sometimes multiple boards. It depends how they're set up. And those states decide how they're going to spend their WIOA dollars. In Arizona, we have Arizona at Work, which is a statewide program. And then in our state, we have every county under that gets a portion of the funding. And so that's how it works in our state. But use the language WIOA and it can help you. Let's see. So Tanya, yeah, you have the skills, you just need some certification training. This would be an exact example of what you could do to get that certification paid for, or you can just go do it on your own and you don't have to go through the process if you have the money. So, and often these certifications don't cost a lot of money. So if you're just need to go get some funding or go get some training for $100 or $200, go figure out how to make that money, get the training, because you're letting that hold you back from finding your ideal job. For Arizona, it is, let's see, Arizona site for Arizona residents. I'm actually going to give you the link. It's also going to be in the follow-up email, but it's Arizona at Work. And you can just Google Arizona at Work and it will come up for you. All right. That is competence. That's how you're a competence match and how you get to the next level. So first thing they look at, can this person do the job? The next thing they look at is, are you a match culturally? Could you be a good candidate for this job based on the type of company we are and our values? Here are some of the ways you can do that. We're going to talk through, do you have a match on the behavior traits? And then what does their website say? What does their social media say? And what job boards are they part of? So first of all, behavior traits. They can be all over the board. Behavior traits. Think about right now, put in your head from a values or behavior traits perspective. What kind of company would you like to work for? And feel free to drop it in the chat. Do you want a company that is fast moving, makes decisions quickly, or maybe a company that is very loyal, that is dependable, a company that is transparent, maybe they're family oriented, maybe they have customer service very high on their list. Drop in the chat some traits of the types of companies you would like to work for. Maybe you want to work for a company with global presence. Maybe you're interested in government and there's more consistency with government jobs. I have a friend that has been in law enforcement for 20 years. And for 10 of those years, he was on the road as a DPS officer. And in the last 10 years, he's been more on the corporate side, conducting training and helping law enforcement and detectives and doing more on the training side. So he was at my house. They're really good friends of ours. And so we were having a great conversation this weekend on Sunday about kind of what was next for him, because he hits his retirement. He's so young. I think he's 48, 47, something like that. And he's going to be essentially retired and he's ready to go. He wants to do something different. And as we were talking about what kind of jobs he wanted, he said, the government has been great. He's going to get a pension. They have great benefits. He's had decent pay this whole time. But he was like, I want to do something completely different. Now, not so different that he doesn't have the experience, but he loves the training that he's done and developing materials and all that. But he wants to do it in a different type of company. He wants to do it in a company that doesn't have as many approval requirements, that is more fast-paced, fast-moving. And so we talked through that, and he gave some examples. One of the companies is Axon. And so Axon has a big presence here in Arizona, which will be a great fit for him because he's law enforcement, and they develop and manufacture a lot of the tools that our law enforcement utilize. And so, but he wants to be on the training side. So like, what a great transition, right? He's using his skills. He's looking for a company that cares about the, law enforcement. So it's a match, but he would just be doing it in a different type of company. So that's what I want you thinking about. What kind of companies do you want to work for? And then you need to think about, what are my strengths? What kind of behavior traits do I have? And is that a match for what I'm looking for? So we offer this tool. It's no cost to you. It's called the DISC assessment. And what the DISC assessment will do is it will help you see what some of your strengths are, what some of your values are. And so on this one, it's just an example. There are some things over to the right that I really love. So it'll give you, what is your ideal environment? So this particular person likes to have freedom from control. They maybe are a visionary and they don't like, dealing in all the details. They like to work with a team. And then their value to the organization is they are people-oriented. They are very creative when it comes to problem solving, and they're a big thinker. So you can take this assessment, and it will be on the link that we send you guys, or the email we send you after this call today. And this will tell you what kind of things you should be attracted to, the type of jobs, and what you can bring. And so when a company says to you, something like, why are you a fit for this company, or why are you a fit for this job? You can say, here are some of my values. Here are some of the things that are ideal for me. And here's how I would match. And here's the research I've done. But you can dive into this. You can use this as a tool, as an example. So that's the DISC assessment. And again, you all are going to be able to take that. And then I want you to think about the skills, soft skills. We talked about technical skills earlier. And I touched on the professional side of professional skills, but these soft skills, these are the top soft skills or professional skills that are in the workforce right now. And then there's another one that's very quickly moving to the top. And that one is the ability to analyze and understand information. And so and it kind of goes right along with problem solving and taking initiative. So those all kind of go together. But the reason I'm calling it out separately is because it's all of the AI tools that are coming out right now. Companies are really looking for people that can take the information coming out from the AI tools and interpret it, evaluate, is this right? And then be able to alter it, edit it, and before you move on. So if you are utilizing ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, then you understand that when you ask it a question, information comes out, and you read that information and you try to understand, is this information correct? And if it is, then I can utilize it, tweak it and utilize it. If it's not, then I need to fix it. Let me give you an example that's very relevant to all of you today. So let's say you open up a tool chatgpt.com. You can go right on to chatgpt.com. It's free. And you can copy your resume and you can drop it into ChatGPT. And then you can say, can you edit my resume and create updated accomplishment statements? Then ChatGPT will do its thing and it'll come up with a new document for you with updated accomplishment statements. You would then need to read your resume and decide and look at it and say, oh, this line isn't quite right. It gave me a little bit too much credit. So you would need to change those numbers. That is what I mean. Maybe you added some skills in that aren't quite a match for you. Then you would need to edit and change those skills. Once you get a resume done, and some of you may have a pretty good resume ready to go, then when you're applying for jobs, you can actually copy a job description and put it into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to update your resume based on that job description. Does that make sense? So you copy the job description, you paste it into ChatGPT, and you ask ChatGPT to update your resume based on that job description. ChatGPT will update your resume, and then it'll allow you to download that new resume. And again, once you download it, then you just tweak it, make sure it's right, and then you can submit that resume to the job instead of you having to spend hours updating it on your own. ChatGPT can help you. And so when we send out the follow-up to this, I will make sure that the AI workbook that I created is attached to this. And it will include all of the AI, or not all of them, but many AI prompts, questions that you can put into ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot. And it will be super helpful to you. Yes, you're right. Vasu, sometimes the format is not good from ChatGPT. That's correct. So I usually will tell ChatGPT to put it in a Word document. I have Word. So if you have Word, if not, you can tell it to put it in another form, but I tell it to put it in a Word document so that I can download it. And usually when I have it convert to a Word document, it works pretty well. So these, again, are the soft skills that companies are looking for. Here's a long list. Maybe you want to screenshot this one. Again, you're going to get the link for the whole webinar, but I love this page and it has a lot of information on it. I'm not going to go through it, but I want you to understand that here's a list of technical skills that are, a lot of companies look for. And here is a list of professional skills that a lot of companies look for. And so when you're looking at job descriptions and you see things like leadership on a job description, they're talking about the ability to delegate, the ability to motivate people, and the ability to make a decision. And so on your resume, integrate that. How have you done that? If they're talking about teamwork, talk about a team that you led. Integrate that so that you can be a match on the competence side. All right, so screenshot if you haven't yet. Make sure that you take a picture of this. And again, it will come out on the link after. All right, so how can I learn about a company and if they're a good match for me? Well, one of the ways is just go to their website. A lot of information will be on their website, especially if they have a careers section. So for this one, I love this example. I use it all the time because this is a company we work with, so I know them now. But they help people that have significant debt get out of debt. And they work with the clients that they help, and then they work with different debtors to help negotiate debt down. And then they collect payment and make all that happen so you can get out of debt. And most of the time when we hear a company that they're a debt collection company, we're like, oh my gosh, I would hate to work for a company like that. But this company is so different. I would never think that. Walking into their organization is very, very uplifting and exciting. And when I went to their careers page and I was like, what kind of people do they hire? And on their sales team, they're looking for empathetic problem solvers. And I thought, isn't that interesting? I even know this company, and I wouldn't have thought that they're looking for empathetic problem solvers as their sales team. Well, as I asked more about it, because I was on site doing some stuff, and I asked their HR executive about what does this mean? And she told me when people are in significant debt, they're going through usually a really, really hard time in their life. And we want our people to walk beside them. We want our people to understand that they're going through a really difficult time and then walk with them and help them understand how to solve their problem. We don't want people calling them and telling them they have to do this, they have to do that, they have to do this. No, we want people who understand and walk beside them. And that's who they hire. In fact, they don't hire typical salespeople. They hire people that have these skills or have these soft skills, empathetic and problem solvers. So I think that's interesting and important as you're researching various companies that you're interested in working for. Because before you ever apply for a job, you want to go to the website and make sure your resume speaks their language. And so if you are in sales, you would not want to just, talk all of your normal sales language. You would want to change some of it to show that you're more on the problem solving side. And then of course the social media, different social media platforms. YouTube is such a great platform to go for about companies because it can teach you things. They have videos about the things they care about, things they're doing in the community. And so that's a great platform to utilize. And then of course, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, all of those and more are examples of where you can find out information about the companies. So make sure you utilize those various different tools. And then lastly, when you're researching a company, job boards. Job boards. So you can find obviously new companies that you hadn't heard of before, and you can also search up companies that you know about and you're looking to apply there. Write down Glassdoor if you're not familiar with Glassdoor. That's a great one to go to because you can learn a lot about how the company treats employees, how, past employees, that has reviews and information, salary information about past employees. So that's a great tool to use. Also, understand that maybe some people that got terminated are out there. And so they might not always have great things to say, but I like it as a data point. If it's just all terrible reviews out there, then it will tell you something about that company. Other job boards are really good. You can always utilize Indeed, Monster, all of those job boards are great. But whatever you do, I encourage you to find a job board that is a match for the niche that you are in. Let's say you're in finance. Then you want to go out and type in Google finance job boards. Or something fun that you can do is you can go to ChatGPT and you can type, give me a list of job boards that focus on the finance industry. And it'll create a list of job boards for you that focus on that particular industry. Give me a list of job boards that focus on Arizona and manufacturing. And it will give you a list of job boards that focus on that area. You can do that on any of the AI tools, and then of course, Google. I utilize AI way more than I use Google anymore because the information is specific and it gives me more of what I want. I don't have to look through ads. I don't have to look through anything. It just gives me what I need. And it just makes things so much faster. All right, so I'm taking a look on the chat now. So if you have any other questions, you can drop them in here as we're going through. What I want you to do now is I want you to think about either yourself or a company you're looking to work for. And what is something you need to do to learn a little bit about yourself, your behavior traits, or learn a little bit more about a company on the character side, on the behavior side. Maybe you need to take that disc. Maybe you really need to evaluate what your top professional or soft skills are. Maybe you need to go follow some companies on their social media accounts. Maybe you need to go find some job boards. So what are some things you need to do? Write them down on that piece of paper that you're tracking. I'm just reading through while you guys are doing that. What ways can I find? Okay, Christina, you asked me about what ways can I find the hiring manager or recruiter for the role I'm applying for. We're going to talk a little bit about networking today, and specifically, you're going to use LinkedIn to do that. So I'm going to address that in a little bit. Yes, Tanya, you probably do need a CNA certification. So I would, if you're local to Arizona, go check out Arizona at Work. If you're not, check out your state's WIOA funding, and they can probably help you get that. Okay. All right. Yes, Vasu, thank you. Take the disc. It will really, really help you. And it'll only take 10 or 15 minutes, and you'll get a 24-page assessment with a ton of information about yourself. And so it's super, super helpful. All right. So now we've talked competence, we've talked character. Now the last step really is the chemistry fit. So here's the thing, you guys. People hire people they know and people they like. And I tell people this, sometimes they don't like that I'm saying that. But the reality is we spend a lot of time with the people we work with. And we want to like the people we work with, right? If we don't like them, it makes our job miserable. So I know you all, I don't know you all, but I know that we all have been in a situation where we wake up, we get to either work or we log onto our laptop at home, and the first thing that pops up is an email from that person that you just are dreading. You don't want to read that email, right? Think about that. That is why people hire people they like. We don't like getting those emails. We don't like working with people that are hard to work with. We like people that are a good match for us. So people hire people they like. So let's talk a little bit about the interview and how you can become likable or more likable. How what are some of the things you can do to kind of help get through that phase? So you want to really make sure when you walk into the interview that you know who you're talking to, the company, the job, yourself. Have you researched the employer? In fact, on Thursday of this week, and I think it's the morning, I'm not exactly sure, I'll tell you at the end, but on Thursday, I am teaching an interview workshop, and we're going to do a deep dive into interviewing. And we're going to talk about how to do all these things and how to prepare for the interview and how to prepare for the interview in such a way that you're not having to memorize answers. You're only coming up with your stories and experience. And then when you're asked a question, you use your stories and experience to answer the question because you know you better than anyone. So we're not memorizing. We're just getting prepared. So you're going to research the employer. When you get there, you're going to get there a few minutes early, but not too early. You're going to get there a few minutes early. You're going to make sure you smile and you engage with everyone. And then after the interview, you're going to make sure you send that follow-up note and you connect with them on LinkedIn. Everyone wants to be connected with if possible on LinkedIn if they're on LinkedIn. So when you walk in, you want to make sure you do the proper handshake. Ladies, a lot of us sometimes will be hesitant to kind of give a good handshake. Don't do that. Give a real handshake. Men, sometimes we tend to go really hard on the handshake. You can back off a little. We just want to give a good handshake there. It matters. And then eye contact, a natural smile. Even if you're one of those people that kind of has that, resting face that people talk about, you can still smile when you walk into a room. You can still smile and say hi. And then one of the other things you want to do to make the connection with somebody is to mirror their initial response. And what I mean by that is if you walk into an interview and they ask you things like, how was your drive? How long did it take you to get here? Tell me a little bit about yourself. What are some of your hobbies? Kind of that small talk. You want to engage in that small talk and then ask them some questions. Maybe, and I hope you did this, you did research ahead of time and maybe you learned some fun things about the people in the room. Maybe you learned on their LinkedIn profile that they graduated from either the same college as you or a college from the state you're from. Maybe you found some type of connection that you can bring up in this small talk phase. The opposite of that is if they welcome you into the interview and then they just get started. And maybe they start with the first interview question of, hey, here's a little bit about the job. Now, why don't you kind of give me an overview of yourself? They just go right in. Then you just want to go right in. Don't try to step back and create the connection and create the small talk, because the kind of person that goes right in for an interview is usually on a timeline and they're trying to get through all the interviews, or they're just very direct. And that's what they want to do. So follow that, whatever it is they do, because those are the type of things that will help make the connection in the interview. So here are some typical questions that you're going to get asked. Always tell me about yourself, your strengths and weaknesses. Why do you want this job? The behavioral questions, which I'm going to talk more about in a second. And then why should we hire you? These are all typical questions you're going to get. Now, and you need to prepare for them. Especially tell me about yourself. Your strengths and weaknesses. And then these two, why are you interested in the job and why should we hire you? Those two right there get asked in some fashion almost every interview. And when you go to answer that question, you need to base it off of what you have learned about the company and the job. So by the time you get into the interview, you have researched the company, you've been on their social media, hopefully you've connected with some of the people that work there or some of the hiring managers that are interviewing you, but you're going to be able to give a really good reason because you're excited about the role. So right now in your head, I want you to think about one company that you would love to work for. Get that in your head. One company that you would love to work for. And then be brave and write it in the chat. Right now, write it in the chat and let's see if maybe we can make some connections happen. One company you would love to work for and write it in the chat. Who's going to do it? Boeing, Anthony, thank you. Who else? How many people we have on this call today? Okay, 21 people. I know someone else has some other ideas on a company they want to work for. So Anthony is on Christina Transamerica. So Anthony is on this call right now. If he's on this event right now and he sees his phone ring and it's Boeing, is he going to get off? Is he going to pause this webinar and jump over to the phone? You bet he is. Yeah, you bet. And he's going to be like, oh my gosh, they're calling me, right? They're like, ah. So, but if Anthony's on this call right now and up on his phone pops possible spam with no name, is he going to he's just going to look at his phone and be like, oh, okay, no big deal. But if it's Boeing or Amazon, he's going to go, I'm jumping on this call. And he's going to take it. So the reason I'm asking you about what companies are you interested in, because when you do get the call from the company, I bet Anthony could give you 10 reasons why he wants to work for Boeing today. And he could say this, and I like airplanes, whatever, all the reasons. It's a great company. I have friends that work there, whatever. Every company you interview for, you should be that excited about. You should be like, oh my gosh, here's why you should hire me. And you should be able to give the list. They need to know why you want to work at that company. One of the biggest errors we make in interviewing is not going in knowing enough about the company, not going in telling them why you are the one. So make sure that by the time you're interviewing with a company, you know about them and you want to work for them. I also encourage people to create a list of 10 to 20 companies that you really, really want to work for, because that will help you target a lot of your searching. And it'll also help you connect with people at that company. So why are you interested in this position and why should I hire you? That should be simple by the time you get to the interview. Now, tell me about yourself. You do need to come up with kind of maybe 3 main points that you want to tell the person when you're interviewing and make them relatable to the job. If you are interviewing for a manufacturing job, then you'll want to tell them that you've been in manufacturing for 10 years and you did an internship and you made some big moves, or you got some promotions at your last company, and this is the area that you really care about. Like you want to at least have a couple main bullets about that particular type of job. And then on the strengths and weaknesses, you can tell your strengths, but also give an example. Don't just say, hey, I'm a creative problem solver. Tell them what that means. What have you done to show that? And then on the weaknesses side, don't say none when they ask about weaknesses. It's a worst answer. Tell them, this is what I've learned about myself. This area is not a big strength of mine, but I know that, and here's what I do about it. So for example, I am not the most detail-oriented person in the world. If I go onto my disk and I take it, it will tell me that very clearly, that I am more of a kind of a big thinker, a strategy person. I love to be out in front of people and speaking. I am not a detailed person. And I know that, but with the job that I have running this organization, there are a lot of details that have to go together. So I have to have the right people around me. So when I am doing something that's super detailed, like our finances and budget or our newsletter, I have a lot of volunteers that will work on some of it, or with our budget, I have a finance committee that goes through it and scrubs it. I will have people edit things before I send them out. And so I surround myself with people that can help, or at least proofread some of the stuff I'm doing. So that's when you talk about weaknesses, that's how you want to answer that question. And then the other one in here is the behavior questions. These are the ones that are like, tell me about a time. Tell me about a time when you had a hard conversation. Tell me about a time when a project didn't go the way you wanted. Tell me about a time when you were successful in negotiating. They're all the tell me about a times. Anything like that. And on Thursday, when we deep dive into interviewing, what I'm going to walk you through is a process on how you answer those questions by developing stories, PAR statements, problem, action, result, PAR statements, so that you don't have to memorize any of those questions, but you have your list of stories and you can just tell one of the stories. And that's how you answer interview questions. You answer interview questions with actual things you've done before. Companies will hire you, one, if they like you, and also if you have proven to them that stuff you've done before, you will take that experience and you will be able to do it over here. That's why they will hire you. You are fixing their problem. They said, oh, she fixed the problem over here. She can fix a problem over here. That's why they hire you. They like you and you can do the job. So when you're answering interview questions, don't ever say, well, this is what I would do. and think about a theory. Oh, if I had to have a hard conversation, then I would just sit down with somebody and just talk to them because, I don't really like to have hard conversations, but when I do, I just sit and I go to coffee. That is a terrible answer. Instead, you would say, tell me about a time you had a hard conversation. You would say something like, well, I was working on this team, or let's use a customer. I was answering the phones for this call center, and I had this customer that was irate because they had gotten billed incorrectly. So at first, I just listened. And when they explained to me what happened, I said, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. That is we did something wrong here. Let's go through the process. And so I calmed them down. I validated what they were saying. And then I walked them through the bill. And when we got to the part that they were questioning, they didn't realize that they had done this and that caused those charges. And then, but we were still able to give that person a discount, so on. So you actually give an example of the question they're asking instead of just saying how you would do it, because they're like, oh, remember that person, they had a really hard customer and they talked that person down. Oh, then they could totally do it over here. If they had a person come in that was upset, we already know how they would handle it because this is how they handled it before. So it's a great validation for them. Something you've done in the past, you will do it in the future. So that is how you answer interview questions. And then here are some good examples of questions you can ask in an interview. Why is the position open? Is someone leaving? Is it a replacement? Is it a brand new position? What are some of the top skills you're looking for? You can ask about leadership style. You can ask people why they like working there. And then what does onboarding look like? And what I would love for you to do is, instead of waiting till the very end of the interview to just go through a whole bunch of questions, integrate these into the interview as much as you can. You can, especially maybe right at the beginning when we're talking about, when you're having that small talk, you can ask, oh my gosh, I was so excited to see this position open. Why is it open? And they'll answer you right there. So you can integrate these questions throughout the interview process. Okay, screenshot that one if you'd like. It'll also be obviously on the playback. All right, let's spend a moment talking about references. So references, here's what I encourage you to do. Get your references ready now, before you need them. When a company asks for your references, that's usually towards the end of the process, and you don't want them waiting for them. If they're interested in your references, you want to get those over so they can call them right away when they're excited about you. So here's what I want you to do. You need to create a document that has your references. 2 leaders that you've had in the past. So 2 people, 2 of your bosses, 2 of your managers, 2 directors, 2 people that you have worked for previously. 2 colleagues. So those are people that were peers to you. People you worked alongside of. When we say subordinates, what I mean is if you've managed people, that would be 2 people that worked for you. So 2 of your employees. Not everybody will have those, and that's okay. I've even told people that, explain to them that if you have run volunteer initiatives and you've had volunteers work for you as a volunteer position, those count. So anyone who has worked for you, and then 2 personal. So get those 6 to 8 references together, and you're going to want to put them on a document. Then you're going to want to validate with, with your references that it's okay to include them. Sorry. That it's okay to include them in your references. And so you get all the approvals and you get them down in a document. And then when a company asks for references and they say, hey, can you send us 3 references? And I would send one of the leaders, one of the colleagues, and maybe one personal. And then I pick the references that are best for that company? Which are the ones that make the most sense? So you send those references, and then immediately you send a note to the 3 people that you sent the references, and you say, hey, I just gave your name as a reference for this company and this job. And here's what I would love for you to talk about. So for example, if I have, I'm going to use her name's Doris because I'm going to see her later today, but Doris Savron works at University of Phoenix. She's a vice provost, and she is currently the vice president of my board of directors. If I was in the future looking at taking a job maybe at an education institution, I would utilize Doris because she's the vice provost at the University of Phoenix and she knows me. I would essentially use her as one of my leaders because I essentially report to the board and report to them. So I would use her as a leader and I would say, hey, Doris, I just sent your name as a reference to this company. Here's the job title. And if you have it, job description. So I would say, here's the company name, here's the job description. And when they call you, I would love it if you could talk a little bit about, how I've led career connectors and, how I've reported up to you and how you see me as a leader. Like I would give a little bit of detail on what you want them to say about you. Because these references are in your corner and they want you to land the job. And so giving them just a little bit of information about the company and about how you want to be represented, it will help so much when they're getting references and when the company calls them. So that's how you pull together references. All right. So we talked about the competence and the character and the chemistry, and those 3 main components. When a hiring manager is hiring, that's what they're looking for. That's how they're going to make the hires. Do you know how to do the job? Are you a match to our company? And do we like you? That's what it comes down to. If you feel like you are getting a ton of interviews, but you're not landing the job, it's coming down to chemistry match. It's coming down to you're not making a connection with the company. So you've got to somehow work on that piece. Work on how do I become a better interviewer? How do I make more connections with people? You've got to think through. If you're not getting interviews, then your resume is not talking about how you're a match to the company with the job description. So you need to make sure you're updating and tweaking your resume and you're only applying for the jobs that are about an 80% match for you. So really think through, where are you struggling? Where are you struggling in the job search? Evaluate that, really look at it. Maybe you're picking the wrong companies. You're applying to companies that are not a good fit for who you are as a person. Think about that. Okay, I got to really think through the type of companies I apply for. So wherever you're stuck in this process, dig into it some more and really, really think through, what you want. So let's now go into some of these tools, these job search tools. We're going to talk about mapping out your career a little bit, the vision, what it looks like, what kind of job you're looking for. Then some more on the resume development, networking, and then technology and social media. So these are some of the tools. First tool. First thing, what do you want to do? What kind of job do you want? I see some people in the chat over here talking about they do have a specific type of job that they want. And so wanting to work in a hospital. I saw some people, HR, that's another one I see in here. So really thinking through, what kind of job do you want? Here are some websites that you can go to for research and to look at jobs. Arizona folks, you have the Pinal County website and you have Arizona Job Connection, which is Arizona at Work. You can dive into career pathways and job types on both of those sites. And these links will also be on your email that's coming out later today. If you are not Arizona people, and also everyone else that maybe is not in Arizona, ONET online can be helpful. And that has a whole bunch of different codes with different types of jobs. And then there's a website called Pipeline AZ that was originally developed for people in Arizona, but it's for anybody. And the part that I really like about this website is the career pathway. And so you can get on, answer some assessment questions, and it can give you recommendations for types of jobs that you could be a good fit for. So that's a really great site to use. And again, this will all be on your email afterwards, as long as you checked in, when you came on today. And if you didn't, we'll give you another chance at the end to check in. But you will get an email that will have all of these resources. So make sure you are crystal clear about the type of job you want, even if it's 3 or 4 different types of jobs. That's okay. What you don't want to tell people when they ask you, you do not want to say, when they say, hey, Joe, what kind of job you looking for? And you're like, dude, I'll take anything. I just need to pay my bills. That is the worst response you could give, because that doesn't help that person help you. They want to help you. I'll go back to my friend who is in law enforcement. We were talking to this weekend, and his name's Travis. I said to him, Travis, what type of job are you looking for? And he knew. He said, I want to be a trainer. I love developing curriculum. I love developing training. I love doing workshops. And I want to be more on the corporate side. You know, he's been in government for so long. Great. Okay, Travis, that's awesome. What companies do you want to work for? And he already knew. He had a list of a handful. I helped guide him to a whole bunch more. But once he said to me, you know, a company like Axon would be a really good fit, I was like, okay, why? And so he explained to me why. And we talked about some other companies. He's also big in education. And so we talked about some of the colleges and high education institutions. And so we talked through, you know, what he could do there. And we decided, or he decided, I just helped guide him, that really the corporate avenue is what he wanted to do. He didn't really want to do education. He is teaching as a professor part-time online, and he likes that. And he doesn't want to mess that up in any way by becoming full-time on staff at a college. He wants to have the opportunity for flexibility. He wants to be around for his family more. And so those part-time professor teaching jobs are exactly what he wants, but he wants a full-time job more in corporate. And so all of us together were able to come up with a list of companies. And I had a whole bunch of connections, and I said, hey, you know, let me know who I can connect you with. And so that is why you want to do that, because when you get in these conversations with people and you say, this is the type of job I'm looking for, and here's some example companies, they will much more likely be able to help you than if you just say anything, I'll take anything. So make sure you do your self-assessment, understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. Again, the DISC assessment is out there for you. Understand, what are your values? What are your passions? What do you care about? What's important to you? What are your priorities? What are the things that if I was sitting in front of you today and I said, what are the 5 things that are really important to you in your life right now when you're thinking about your career and where you're going? You need to be able to write those down. Maybe it's, I need to be home, or I need a flexible schedule so I can drop my kids off in the morning and I can pick them up at 3 o'clock when they get off school. That's really important to me. Then write it down. Write it down. That's a value right now in your life. If one of them is, I love to travel, but I really can't travel more than 10% of the time, because I can, you know, travel like up to 10% because I can coordinate babysitters, or my spouse is home at this time and we can make it work. But 10% is about all I can do. Write it down. I really want to work for a company that is making an impact in the community. Write that down. What are your 5 priorities? 5 things that are really important to you. Because write it down. Is salary really important to you? So my friend Travis said he got a job offer and it was way under his salary that he's even making now. And he said, I would never be able to take that salary, but I really like this company. And I said, Travis, I need you to write down those main things that are really important to you, because then you won't deter from it. If you wrote down that you need to make $85,000 a year, $125,000 a year, whatever it is, whatever your number is, then you won't apply for a job that's $60,000 if you know ahead what the salary is. Because then you're going to get to a place where you have to make a choice. Am I going to take that $60,000 job and then also have to go pick up a side gig? Am I going to do that? Well, no, because now it gets into my family time that I was protecting. So really thinking through that, you have to get that down ahead of time. Use the tools, the ones I gave you. You can find other tools to do this research around, who am I? What do I care about? Use that Pipeline AZ tool. It's really an excellent tool to talk through your career. And then come up with your plan. What are the resources you needed? What are some training that you need? Who do you need to meet with? Do you have some mentors? If not, do you need to get a mentor? Do you need to get somebody to keep you accountable to the process? So what do you need? Think through that. This is all part of the figuring out who I am and what I'm about and what I want for a job. And then once you've got that all together, then you want to start talking about it. You want to start sharing your story. You want to start sharing your goals. As you speak about this more and talk about it more, and then you're going to start believing in yourself more. So Tanya, I want to use you as an example. I hope that's okay right now. So Tanya said she is in healthcare. She wants to work at a hospital, and she does need to go get her CPA certification. Great. All of that can be done. So the only thing Tanya needs to do now is start to go and research, where can I get my CPA certification? She has the skills to do the job, but she needs to get the certification. So she'll go get the training, go get the certification. And as she's doing that, she's talking to people. I want to work at Banner. I want to work at whatever's local to you. I want to, CNA, as I say CPA or something, CNA certification. So she can go get that. And while she's getting that, she can be talking to people about different hospitals that she wants to work in, different connections with different hospitals. Maybe as she's talking about it, she'll also find out maybe there are other organizations that she want to work with that she didn't even think about before. I have a friend, actually she's a volunteer right now, but she is working with, let's see, what is it called? Seniors Helping Seniors. So she is working with an organization that hires people to help seniors out. Things like running errands for them, helping them daily. Some people do have to be CNAs because they have to go in and do various things, but many of them do not. And so Tanya, as you're thinking about getting your certification, can you be doing something that is similar that you don't need the certification for? So this Seniors Helping Seniors organization, they're hiring people all the time to run errands, to build relationships, to sit and have a conversation with these with seniors. And so you can create a plan that is, okay, I need this resource, I need this training, and maybe I can go do some type of contract work while I'm working on this. And start talking about it. Start talking about it. And that's how you move forward in your career, instead of being passive and just waiting on the right job to come out and for you to apply for the right job at the right time. you're active, you're becoming active in your job search. All right, so career pathway, career planning, career visioning, that is the first tool. You really need to get crystal clear. Then the second tool, we've talked about some of this before, but I do want to talk about some of the main components of the resume because people ask about it all the time. So some of the main components, again, this is Job Search Essentials. We're kind of giving a big overview of job search and what are the main things, the big overview. So career pathways, identifying your career, being crystal clear about what career you want to go after. Next one, everyone has to have a resume. You have to. So let's talk about format and what needs to be what needs to be on your resume. We're going to talk about some of the main components, the keywords, your experience and accomplishment statements. So the basics, the font size. The font size is going to be between 10 and 12. A lot of our resume writers say 11, 10, 11, or 11, 12 is really a good font size. You don't want to make it too small because you want it to be readable. So 10, 11, 12 are kind of the font sizes. And then the type, I'm going to write them in the chat because so it's easier to understand. Calibri, Arial are two that go really well. Anything with sans, that means it has the feet. Do not use those. They're hard to read. They're hard for the eyeballs to read. And some of them even struggle to get through the applicant tracking software. So Calibri, Arial, and then the 10 to 12 as far as font size goes. Resume length. Oh man, this one, you would be surprised at how many people have an opinion on this, or maybe you're not because everyone has given you an opinion. But 1 page is fine. 2 pages is fine. If you're applying for something that is very technical, then even 3 pages could work. But don't let anyone ever tell you you have to keep it on 1 page. If you have more than 10 years experience, it's likely you're going to need 2 pages. But you want to, one of the most important things about a resume is that you put it in order. That your most current job is the first one listed. Most current job, and then your next position, and then your next position. And you don't go about more than 15 years out. So if you've been working for 30 years, don't put that on your resume, and you don't even need to go out past about 15 years. And you want to make sure that your resume is formatted so that it can be read by the applicant tracking software, ATS. The applicant tracking software is that system when you apply to a job that it goes in. Your resume goes into that system, and what it's doing is that system is deciding if you're a match for the job before it even goes to a recruiter's eyeballs or a hiring manager's eyeballs. That system is deciding, is this person a match for this job? And if they are, I'm going to flag them in the system that they're a match for the job. And many applicant tracking systems will actually even give a percentage on how much of a percentage you are of a match to that job. So that's why it is essential that you do what I said around updating your resume for the job. It is essential. If you're not getting hits, if you're not getting interview requests, then your resume is not matching the jobs close enough. So if that's what you're doing, if that's your main way to apply for jobs is going online and applying, then you must have a resume that matches those jobs. There is another way through networking, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And so if your resume is getting emailed also to various people, then it can look a little bit different. It doesn't require all of, the very, very simple format. Maybe you have some color on it. Maybe you're a graphic designer and you have some things on there. But for the most of us, for our resume, it's going to be very simple. No charts, no pictures, just information about us. That's the resume format that you're going to use. And You want to make sure that your contact information is up top. But here's something most people don't know, and that a lot of people do. That a lot of people will do this and make this huge mistake is if you're using Word to do your resume, you will go into Word and oftentimes find a resume template and download that template and use it and fill out all the information, and that's your resume. The problem with that is oftentimes there is a lot of formatting within the template that is not ATS. It doesn't match with the ATS. And an example is with your contact information at the top of your resume. When next time you get into your resume, I want you to click on your contact information to edit it. And if you have to double click to get into the header, then it's in the wrong place. If you have to double click to get into the header, that information gets hidden, doesn't get shown to the applicant tracking software. And so it's probably your name, phone number, email address, LinkedIn URL. Those are the main pieces in the contact information. That's not moving over the applicant tracking system. So no wonder you're not getting any connection. No one's reaching out to you. They don't have your name, your email, or your phone number. So if you're double clicking to make edits, then get that out of there and put it into the main content of the resume. I hope that makes sense. To most of you, you should just be able to open up your resume and click on your name and be able to edit it. But if you have to double click to get inside of the header, you got to get it out of there. And then you want to have your title, your headline. So first you have your contact information, and then you have your title and your headline. You have that title and headline is the title or headline of the job you're applying for. That should change just about every time you apply for a job. So if you are a project manager, but you're applying for a director of programs, you change that title to be director of programs. So you want it to match. That's one of the ways you're going to get a match on your resume. And then your work experience is going to be listed, from most current down, no more than about 15 years. And then all of your skills are going to be incorporated into your accomplishment statements. You want to incorporate them. You don't want a list of just, here are my skills. You want to look at what the job is asking for, and you want to incorporate those keywords into your accomplishment statements under your experience. Up to 75% of applications are rejected, or, they go to the bottom of the list because they don't match with keywords or the formatting's off. Up to 75%. So if you're not getting emails, if you're not getting interview requests, something is off with your resume. It is not matching the job. It does not mean that you're not qualified for the job. It just means you need to update and tweak your resume to be a match for the job. So make sure every job you apply for that you are updating your resume. It is essential. And on your resume, you will have the accomplishment statements. And those are, you have the job that you did, the last job you did. Maybe you were a manufacturing tech at Intel. So you have Intel and manufacturing tech. You want to put about 3 bullets underneath about things that you did, accomplishments that you had at that job. If you can use numbers, even better. If you can talk about how many products you helped build, how maybe you changed a process and you saved money. Maybe you answered customers and you can put that in. It's really think through what are the impacts you had at that company. Did you make money, save money? Did you increase productivity? Did you make people happy? Those are 4 questions you can ask yourself, and they can be part of your accomplishments. And again, as part of this program, Lori will be doing a deep dive at the next resume workshop if you haven't taken it yet, and she will walk you through building these out. And I actually do a portion of do this as well in the interview workshop. So she's doing it for the resumes, I'm doing it for the interviews, but they can be the same statements. You just develop them a little bit more in the interview workshop because you're gonna use them as stories, as examples. So that's what I want you to make sure you have under each job. You have some accomplishment statements. All right, so moving on, we're getting off of the resume now, and we're gonna move into networking. So the resume is required. So we're developing the career, like what is the job we're going after? We're making a resume. We have to, it's baseline. We have to have a resume. And oh, Leslie, I'm so glad you like the resume workshop. That's great. Lori's fantastic. I assume that's who you saw. Brenda Mariah will teaches them sometimes too, but so that's great. Thanks, Leslie. So really good resume. Get your resume so it's solid. At least the baseline resume, because even though you have your baseline resume, you're going to tweak it for every job. Change the headline. Maybe you need to update some bullets because of what's required on that job. Maybe you need to add in some technology you forgot you had and is on that job description. So you want to update that. The next big thing you need to think about in job search is networking. So many people hate this word. I hate this word, you guys. Networking sounds like I'm going somewhere and someone's going to hand me a business card and pitch me on something. Like that just makes that. I just can't. I don't even want to do it. I don't even want to walk in a room. I don't want to talk to everybody. I don't want to pretend I like everyone all the time. No. But here's the truth about networking. Networking just means making a connection, building a relationship. And it doesn't even have to be like a long-term relationship. It's just a connection. It's just a connection point. Because here's the thing. This is what I want you to understand. This is why this is so important. When an employer goes to hire for a really good job, the first thing they do is, who do I know? Who do I know? Who does my team know? Does anyone have a referral for this job? Especially really good jobs. Because going back to what I said earlier is people hire people they like. And if they already know you and they like you, oh my gosh, it makes this process so much easier. When I'm hiring, the first thing I think of is, who do I know? Do I have a volunteer that's done this really well before and I can bring them on? Who do I know in my network of people? Those people are the ones that tend to get the really good jobs. And sometimes they come out of nowhere. You're like, I didn't even know this job was out there, right? So you want to be there. The last place employers go, did you hear me? The last place employers go is through their online posting, through the applicant tracking software. So most everyone will have to apply for the job no matter what. So even if you're referred in, they'll be like, hey, you need to apply online. So that always happens because you need to be in the system. But the employer does not want to go into the system and have to search for people if they don't have to. They want to know somebody. So I wonder if any of you have ever been part of a company that has offered employee referral bonuses. If you have been part of a company that has done that, will you put in the chat how much they offered? What was the bonus if your company hired somebody that you referred in? Let's see if anyone has any thoughts on that. Did anyone, $300, Rebecca, nice. Who else? Did anyone work for a company that offered $1,000? I love it. It's so great. $500 to $1,500, probably Leslie, depended on the level of person you were hiring. So I was a single mom years ago. My son was he was ages 1 to 3 when I was a single mom. He's 26 now. So this was a while back. But he was 1 to 3 years old in this time frame, and I was a single mom. I was working at Intel, and I was finishing up my undergrad degree. And after I'd split up with my son's dad, I had a lot of bills that I was now on my own. And so I was also going to school. So I couldn't really have a second job. I was going to school full time, taking care of my baby, and working full time. And I remember like, okay, I need to really bring in some additional money. So Intel had this amazing employee referral program. And this was way back, right? We're talking like 23 years ago now. And ours was between $500 and $2,000, depending on the level of the employee they were hiring. And I was graduating, right? I was going to school. I was meeting people that were graduating, both undergrad and master's degrees. And so I started this kind of side hustle before side hustle was a thing. I started the side hustle of, hey, if you're interested in working at Intel, they're hiring. Here's the type of people they're looking for. Send me your resume and I will get you in the door. And so what I would do is people would send me their resume and then I would send it to the hiring managers for these different jobs. And with the system we had, you could look up who, you would know who was hiring and who the contact was. That might have all changed now. I don't know. But back then, I could look in my internal systems and say, oh, it's this hiring manager. And I would send the resume directly to that hiring manager. And I'd say, hey, I know this person from school. They're interested. Da, da, da. There you go. And then when they applied online, they just used my name, like to go through the system. You guys, I made a second income from doing this. I made so much money, not like I was wealthy or anything, of course, but I worked that hustle and that helped get me and my son through some really difficult days financially. Because if I remember correctly, I was making like $12 or $13 an hour. And so this was super helpful for us to pay our bills, me to keep food on the table and to keep moving forward in life. And so companies will pay people to give a referral. The reason is because it saves money, number one, and number two, it significantly reduces turnover. Significantly. People that are referred into a company stay a lot longer on average than people who come in through the job board. So you want to become one of those people that is referred into the company. They will interview on a much higher percentage of time. They will interview people that are referred rather than the ones that just come through the job board. So it is really important, if you have not written this down, it is really important that you write down that you need to create your list of 10 to 20 companies that you want to work for. Then you will come up with a plan on how to get in the door with these companies. Instead of just watching what they're applying for online, you then start making connections. You start making connections with people that work at that company. Maybe you know people already who work at those companies. So we know that because I've said it 15 times, people want to work with people they know and like. It's just true. It's just true. They want to work with people they know and like. And we know that online job boards bring a lot of resumes in. So oftentimes your resume or the job that you maybe get won't even be advertised. You know, up to 70% of jobs are never even on a job board. They're coming in. I had just a couple weeks ago, I had a friend call me, and she's the CEO of this organization in Scottsdale. And she said, hey, Jess, I am hiring for this job, and it's a really important job to me, and I don't want to post it online. I want somebody that's referred in. Do you know anybody? And so I had some ideas for her and gave her some names. Well, somebody on my team, one of my volunteers, I had told about this opportunity, and she was like, oh my gosh, I just applied for that job. I would love to work for this company. And I said, oh, well, I will let her know. I will let my friend know. And so I texted her and let her know that this person had applied for it. And so I think she saw it on LinkedIn. It wasn't on a job board, but I think she had posted it on LinkedIn. So she reached out to her right away and interviewed her, and they loved her. And then that CEO called me just I think it was 2 weeks now, 2 weeks ago, and said, hey, we're in the final phase with this candidate that you know that's been a volunteer for your organization. What do you think of her? And I just raved about her. What she's done for our organization will have an impact forevermore. Like, it's significant. She's so skilled and talented, and everything she did, we could not have done without her. Like, I just went on and on and on, and I explained everything she did. She gets off the phone and she calls and makes her an offer. And she accepted the offer and started a week and a half later. Like, that was through networking. Her resume may have just sat there, but because she had the referral, that CEO picked up the phone immediately and called her. That's what I want to happen for every single one of you on the line today. I want someone going, oh my gosh, I heard your name, or they pick up your call because they see who it is, or they go find your resume, or they ask you for your resume. That's where you want to be. You want to land through networking. And almost up to 85% of jobs are landed through networking. So imagine if you're not networking, you're out there competing with the rest. You're out there competing with everyone who's just sitting at home, submitting on job boards. And sometimes it can feel like a lot of extra work, but I guarantee you, it will get you a job faster and a job that you want more if you're willing to network and talk to people and just make some connections. So the word networking is hard to hear. We don't like that word, but really, it's just getting to know people. It's building a relationship. And regardless if you're introverted or extroverted, everybody can have a conversation and get to know somebody. And here are some of the places you can do it. Of course, you can go to career fairs and job events. You can even do workshops like this. And I'm going to encourage everyone in a few minutes to drop in your LinkedIn URL, because that's a way that you can connect with each other. But you can go to job fairs, you can go to career events. Even if you don't think a job fair is a good fit or good use of your time, I encourage you to show up. I encourage you to research the companies that will be there. And I encourage you to go up to every single table and booth and have a conversation. Because even if a company is there, maybe they're representing, maybe Amazon is there, Anthony, Amazon is representing their warehouse jobs. And maybe you don't want a warehouse job, but you're like, not worth my time. It is worth your time, because Amazon is there. Doesn't matter if they're just representing their warehouse jobs. Maybe you're in finance, you go talk to the Amazon people, and now you have a connection inside of Amazon. Doesn't even matter that they're not recruiting for your in your job type, but you now have a connection in Amazon, and you can make a connection on LinkedIn with that person. So I encourage people, show up to job fairs and career events. If you've gone to school somewhere, what does your alumni network look like? I can tell you, so I'm from Ohio. I'm a diehard Ohio State Buckeye fan, diehard. And I grew up with them. I went to college there, and then I moved out west. And out west where I live, there is a really large Arizona Ohio State alumni group that I'm part of. And they do things together, and I'm not as active in that group as I used to be, but I used to be pretty active. To this day, if I meet somebody that either is part of the alumni group or goes to Ohio State or is an Ohio State Buckeye, like, there's an immediate connection. I will help introduce these people all over the place. Like, it's just this thing. And most colleges have some type of alumni network that you can plug into. So if you have a college alumni network, get plugged into it. It can be even on LinkedIn, or find out what they're doing in the community and show up to this stuff. Are there business meetings you can attend? Chambers of commerces in your area will have different business meetings. Oftentimes you can even go for free. So you can ask, you can reach out to them and say, hey, I am in job search right now. I'm looking for my next job, or I'm unemployed, or I got laid off, or whatever the story is. Could I have a guest pass? And most of the time they'll say, yeah. Professional associations, think about what is your industry. So Tanya, we talked about your industry before, healthcare, and we talked about you getting your CNA. There are associations for healthcare people that are doing work in healthcare. So here's how you find out. Go out to Google or go out to ChatGPT and ask for a list of professional associations in your industry. If you would say professional associations in HR, you're going to get things like SHRM, Society HR Manager, SHRM, yeah, Society HR Managers. It's huge. It's a huge HR organization. You're going to get things like ATD, which is the Association of Training and Development. You're going to get HR Network, the HR Executives Network. There's a whole bunch. And so go out to Google or ChatGPT and put professional association in your industry, and you will get a whole bunch. Same with conferences. Put conferences in your industry and maybe your area. So it can be HR conferences, Arizona, and it's going to come up with a list. And then again, ask for a guest pass for some of these conferences. Some of them will let you in, and some of them will like, yeah, it's a fee-based thing. I just went to last Friday, I went to a conference. It was for women business owners, and it was great. A lot of content, so much networking, met so many people. And this gal came up to me. She was on the other side of the room, and she walked over to me and she said, introduced herself, and she said, hi. And she told me her name. And she's like, I know you from Career Connectors. And I was like, oh, awesome. And so we started talking about that. And then she had told me, she had sent me a message in LinkedIn. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry if I didn't answer. I get a lot of messages. She's like, oh no, it's okay. But here's what I was asking you about. And I said, oh, that's great. Okay, I didn't know that. Can you send me another message in LinkedIn and then I will answer it? So we made the connection. She reminded me who she was and why she was reaching out to me. And then I was able to help her move forward. And so you never know what can happen at these conferences and the connections you'll make. So it's another great way to get your name out there. And then we have social media networking. And so not just networking, but social media in general. So it is a great way to network. And it's also kind of required, you guys. LinkedIn is just not really an option. If you are in job search, you need to have a LinkedIn profile. Let me say that, and if you have not been paying attention, I need to lock in right now. If you are in job search, you need to be on LinkedIn. And you need to be in LinkedIn moving forward. I don't work for LinkedIn. I have nothing in there. I don't get any kickbacks for being on LinkedIn. But you need to be on it because almost all recruiters are on it. And they look for people on LinkedIn. They don't just search for people, which they do that. That's a big one. And they post jobs on LinkedIn. That's a big one. But when you apply for a job, they will look you up on LinkedIn to validate your resume and to validate that you are who you say you are. I just had this happen to me yesterday. I do some hiring here and there for a couple different clients that I have. And one of the clients called me yesterday and said, hey, I wanted to learn a little bit more about this guy. And so the first thing I did was I pulled up his LinkedIn profile to validate what his resume said, because there was something on his resume that was like a little odd. And so we went to his LinkedIn profile, and I was like, oh, that's why this happened. He just didn't put it on his resume. That makes sense. So there was a gap. Well, he was caring for an ailing father. And so that totally made sense. And he had that listed out on LinkedIn, but he hadn't put it on his resume. So I was able to make sense. And he goes, oh, that's great. So we used it as a validation tool. And so it's not always just used for recruiting. It's used for a lot of different things. It's used to see, are you following their company on LinkedIn? Do you care about what they care about? What does your social media say about yourself? Because what your social media says matters. It matters. If you are out there saying negative things about either your previous company or other people, or maybe you're getting super political or whatever, if the company sees that and they're like, oh, that's not a match for us. That's not the kind of person that we want representing our company. So you need to have a LinkedIn profile that has your information and it represents you really well. If you are in healthcare like Tanya, then Tanya can be posting healthcare related stuff on her LinkedIn profile, because then it will attract more people in that industry. More healthcare recruiters will be reaching out to her. So LinkedIn is essential. It's really, really important that you have a LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is so great because not only does it have your information, the search, SEO, search engine optimization that it has is ranked very high. And so let's say a recruiter does a search for you out on Google. They do a search for you. LinkedIn is likely the first social media platform to come up. I'm active on about 4 different social media platforms, and LinkedIn comes up first every time when someone searches my name. Same with most people. It is a very, very highly ranked social media platform. So you want to have something on there, and you want to have a profile on there, and you want to complete your profile. So you want to follow the steps. There's, I don't know, 7 or 8 steps when you start LinkedIn. It'll say, fill out your work experience, fill out education, add your picture. It'll tell you, what to put on there, and you just follow the steps. So complete your profile, because when your profile is complete, when recruiters do searches, the profiles that are complete come up to the top of the search results. And so recruiters do tons of searching on LinkedIn. Most companies, it's the #1 tool they use to recruit. So you'll want to have your profile completed. You'll want to connect with people. You'll want to build your network. There are connections you can make. You can connect with me. I would love to connect with you. And then I can also, by being connected to me, you then by default are connected to my network. And I am going to drop in the chat right now how you can drop in your LinkedIn URL and how we can connect with each other. So what you want to do is you want to open a browser window on your computer. You can do it right now. If you do it right now, then we'll be able to connect with each other. If you wait till later, it's fine. You'll have to you can figure out how to do this, but right now we can at least connect with each other if you drop in your LinkedIn URL. So you want to open up a browser window. You'll want to go to LinkedIn and you want to go to your profile. Most of the time you can get there by just clicking on your picture. If you click on your picture, then what will happen is it will take you to the profile page, and in the search bar will be your URL. So I dropped my URL in. You can paste it on here and then we can connect. If you don't have it right now, you can also just click on my LinkedIn URL and connect with me. You can connect with Anthony. He just dropped his in there. So if you want to connect on LinkedIn, and Rebecca, this is a great way to build your network quickly, because you want to get to 50 connections. 50 connections. I bet you'll be surprised once you get on though. That might sound like a lot, but 50 connections is not a lot, really. You can connect, you'll see people that you've worked with before, maybe people you know, maybe people in your family, colleagues. Connect. You might be surprised where some people work and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to work. That's a company on my list. I want to work for them. So build out your network. 50 connections is the first goal, because that will help your profile get visibility. The second goal of connections is 500. So that sounds like a lot, but once you're using LinkedIn on the regular, you'll be able to get there. And then you can research companies and apply right there, right on LinkedIn. And what's so cool about that is you often can see who posted the job, especially if you're connected to them, and you can research the company right there on LinkedIn. So this is an excellent way to network, an excellent way to build relationships, especially for anyone that is super introverted and does not want to go out to any events. Like it scares them to death. This is an excellent way to do that. Now, I don't want you to get stuck at home and never getting out, but this is an excellent way to connect. And then use LinkedIn. It only takes 5 minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes a day. Here's what you need to do, and write these down. My good friend Brenda teaches this. In 5 minutes a day, you can do this. You can go out to LinkedIn and you can find a post that somebody made and you can like and comment on it. Okay, like and comment on somebody's post. You can share. So you can like or comment or share somebody's post. That's one thing to do. Another thing to do, there are 3 things. Another thing to do is make a connection. So like and comment on a post, make a connection. And the third thing, this is the one that's a little bit harder. The third thing is make your own post. Now, you don't have to make your own post every day. You can also reshare someone's post. So I am so grateful and honored when I see somebody who's gone through one of my workshops that will go out and repost either the post I made about this workshop, or they'll share another one, a future workshop, and they'll be like, hey, if you're in job transition, attend this workshop. It was worth the time. So those 3 things, like and comment on somebody's post, go ahead and make a connection with somebody, at least one person, and share your own post or repost somebody else's. Those 3 things are what you can do in 5 minutes a day to increase the ability to connect with people, and they'll see you on LinkedIn. So that's why it's not that hard. We make it really, really hard, and it's not that hard. You can do that. So speaking of my friend Brenda, here's an example of her LinkedIn profile, and a really, really good profile. So it has the headline, has her name, has the headline, has right here in this section, it has some of the keywords like titles. I can take a look at her connections and see if anyone that I know. We have when I pulled this, 716, I think it says 69 mutual connections. We have a lot of similar connections. And then this is her summary. You can use ChatGPT to help you create this content. If you take your resume again and you have it in and you put it into ChatGPT, you can say, create a summary, a LinkedIn summary for me, and it will create a baseline for you. And you can copy and paste it right into LinkedIn. So it doesn't have to be that hard, but it needs to be done because this is part of having a profile that's fully complete. So I just wanted you to see that. You can connect with Brenda on LinkedIn as well, and you can kind of see her format. You can connect with me and you can see my format and you can use it and you can utilize some of it. I wouldn't copy and paste somebody's information direct, but you can see their style and you can use some of the words, that kind of thing. All right. So again, this one is just how to connect on LinkedIn. And I would love to connect with all of you. Thank you for dropping URLs. You guys all connect with each other as well. And that will help your profile. We talked a little bit about AI today. And these are a couple different AI tools. I like ChatGPT. Bing and Bard are 2 other ones. Gemini is one, and then Microsoft Pilot. Those are kind of some of the main ones. ChatGPT seems to be the most popular, or the one most people know. So you can just go into ChatGPT, it's free, and here are some of the things it can do. I wrote, as an example, provide 10 accomplishment statements for a project manager. And it created 10 sample statements. Now, they're very generic. You would not want to use these exact ones, but you can use them to get ideas on how to update your resume. And then you can, once you're done, you can even take your resume, like I mentioned, copy and paste it into ChatGPT and ask it to create or update your accomplishment statements. And especially once you get a job description, you can ask it to match it. So it really will help there. There are a lot of things you can do with AI once you start using it. I use it every single day for various things. Helping write things, helping with follow-up communications, helping with writing stuff for LinkedIn, creating content, cover letters. Somebody asked me about cover letters. Cover letters are typically not required, but there's no issues on submitting a cover letter if you want to. Especially if you have a connection to that company and you want to explain that. That's a great place to have a cover letter. But I would say I know that many recruiters and hiring managers don't ever even look at the cover letters. So unless they are asking for one, if they're asking for one, then definitely you need one. So ChatGPT, AI, it can do a lot of really great things for you. All right, so these are the tools we went through: the career mapping, the resumes, networking, and social media and technology. And so what I'm going to do is on your follow-up email, you will have a link back to this workshop. Also, you'll have a checklist of the main things we talked about and things you need to do to move forward. Things like create a list of 10 to 20 companies that you want to work for. List out the 5 most important values or priorities you have when you're looking for a job right now. Things like that. And then it's going to have some information on AI. And so that's the follow-up email. It's going to have some information about workforce trends. It'll have all those links I mentioned and the direct links to Arizona at Work, to ONET online, to Pipeline AZ. So all of that are follow-up steps to this workshop. And I really encourage you to do them. Follow those steps. This is not just busy work. There would be no reason. That would not make any sense for me or anyone that we bring in front of you to give you busy work. We're giving you these activities so you will take steps forward in your job search so that you will land a job that you actually want that fits into your life. So what I want you to do is take a look back at your notes that you took today and think about what's one thing you can do. I would say let's give it a week. What are we on? We're on Tuesday. Are we on Tuesday? Tuesday. Take a look. What is one thing you can do by the end of the week to take a huge step in your job search? And then write it in the chat. Is that taking the disc? Is that creating your values? Is that coming up with an action plan for your job search? Is that updating your resume? Is it attending the interview workshop? But what is it? What's one thing you can do? And write it in the chat. Because we know that when you write something down, when you commit to something, like what Rebecca has done in coming up with an action plan, what Brenda has said about taking the DISC assessment and creating an action plan, when you write things down, you are much more likely to actually do them. So go ahead and write in the chat what is one thing you can do this week to move forward in your job search. These are the upcoming workshops we have. Again, the interview prep one is on Thursday. We have another resume writing one on April 3rd. And then on April 16th, we have another resume one. And then if you know someone that needs to attend this workshop, I'm teaching it on April 9th. And then salary negotiation we do every once in a while. And there's a salary negotiation one coming up May 22nd. And so that one, Brenda walks you through how to determine your salary value, the total compensation package, how to evaluate all of that. So Brenda will be walking through that, and you can get that through this website, app.careerconnectors.org/Pinal County, because Pinal County is sponsoring this, as I mentioned. It'll also be on the email that comes out. It'll have the direct link to these workshops. Anthony is action plan and networking. Perfect. And then if you are in Arizona, if you are in Pinal County, here are some of the things, additional things that Pinal County can offer you. Arizona at Work Pinal County. There's a phone number, there's a QR code, and a website. You can go right there. They have job fairs, they have additional workshops. They can help you with career exploration. If you're a veteran or if you have a disability, there are some additional programs and opportunities they have. They can help with skill development and training. There's so many opportunities. They have direct connections to employers. So if you are in Pinal County, please reach out to them for additional assistance. If you are outside of Pinal County, you can go to any of our Arizona at Work offices, one's in your area. And if you're outside of Arizona, again, go to WIOA in your state, Google that, and then you'll get some resources. Now, again, not every state does what Arizona does. Every state is different, but they have some support in some fashion, in some way, and that will get you there. So Career Connectors is all about building better community. Through careers, we know that jobs lift up people, lift up communities, and so we are all about empowering job seekers, employers, and the service providers in our communities to help you connect and make the right job. These are our upcoming events. Again, no cost to any of this programming that we do. But on April 10th, these bigger events, what we have here is we bring in a keynote speaker to talk about something currently in the job search. And then after the keynote speakers talk, we go into a time of breakout sessions and networking where we bring in resume writers, career coaches, finance coaches, a whole bunch of different coaches, and they will help you individually and in small groups. You can bring your resume questions, your interview questions, and they can address them right there. And so they're really great networking too, even though they're virtual and they're online. And so that's what's coming up with these careerconnectors.org. And if you did not, if you did not get a chance to check in at the beginning, please check in right now. And Wendy, I think you're still on the line. If you can drop that URL again. If you did not check in, make sure you check in so that we can get you the job search checklist and all the additional resources for this workshop. And then thank you all for being here today. If you would like to reach out to me or connect with me, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm also really active on Instagram, and I give a lot of job search content, answer questions, various things like that. And so that's my QR code for my contact information. And I just want to say thank you so much, everyone. We do have a couple minutes. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. And I am here for a few more minutes to answer questions. But thank you for participating. And I am wishing the best to each of you as you are in this transition phase right now. Thanks for being here today. Thank you.